Good evening. Welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. And this week, once again, I'm joined by my old mate, Gatesy. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I got myself a nice big bucket full of hot chocolate I went for tonight. I thought I'd go the hot chocolate route.
Are you allowed to put hot chocolate in a Union Jack cup? Is that legal in the
Yeah.
UK? Does it have to be tea in
Yeah.
there?
No. I don't remember that being written in the Magna Carta or anything.
I'll have a check. It might be.
Do you think there's some sort of like bylaw from 1746 or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
If you wanna have that coffee pish, it's probably saying not allowed to have it in a Union Jack mug. Tea
Oh no.
only tea allowed in there.
You mean Henry VIII is going to send his sort of like his cavalrymen after him and chop me head off?
Well, find yourself in the tower real quick, mate.
Oh fuck! Oh well. I better drink this quick before anybody finds out, right?
I'd be drinking that sharpish, mate. Yeah, and then watch it. Oh dear. But
I'll hide it out shot. We can edit this bit out. They'll never know.
yeah, we're live. Fuck it, we're screwed.
Oh shit! That's me done.
Yeah, you're banked to rights, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's a fair cop, Gov.
Yeah, but we've got actually an interesting one here in the chat already because it touches on what I was going to start off with tonight, Gatesy.
Randy.
So it's Randy. How are you, Randy? Good to see you. Says, all right, Tommy, how are you? I really hope Lopetegui has learned from his mistakes and picks the best 11 available in their correct positions with the right tactics. Otherwise, he has no excuses. And it's the no excuses bit I'm kind of interested in because, as you see from the thumbnail, it's time to sink or swim, I think, because you can only use the excuses of new managers, some new players takes a while for so long. Especially when you see teams like Chelsea, Brighton, and tomorrow's opponents, Ipswich. I think on average they've been starting around 9 new players since the start of the season. 9 players who did not play for them in the Championship last season. They've been playing really well. Like so Chelsea and Brighton, new manager in the door. They've hit the ground running. They're playing really well. The managers clearly were able to get across to their players only with pre-season what it was that they wanted from them, how they were going to set up, how they were going to play. Everyone seems to be in unison. Everyone understands their jobs and what they're doing. We seemingly do not. Now, Lopetegui has had pre-season, albeit there was some players that came back a bit later. Fair enough. But not only that, he's had a number of games. He's had the Prem games. Is it 5 Premier League games?
This will be the 7th.
Premier League.
Yes.
So he's had 6 Premier League games and 2 Cup games. So that's 8 competitive fixtures, plus the preseason, plus all the training sessions in between all of those games during the week. And the question becomes, how long do you need really? Because I would think at this point we should already be seeing things really starting to come together. I accept that maybe not every club with a new manager, some new players will necessarily hit the ground running. And I think we all accepted that before the season kicked off, that it might take a little bit of time. But how much do you need? Like at this point, we should see patterns of play. We should see some cohesion. We should at least be able to say, okay, this appears to be the players that he prefers for his system. He's had a fucking good enough look at them by now, surely. He knows what he's got in the squad. And we can see what we're trying to do, and we should be starting to see it coming together. It would be much easier to be patient if we could see that. And I would be patient right now if I could see that. The worry for me is we're not seeing it. And we should be, surely, should be seeing something at this point.
I think we started to see a little bit of something against Brentford. I don't think that the game against Brentford was a total loss, if I'm being honest with you. I think there was little green shoots of some sort of recovery. I do think he's not been helped by the absence of Fulkrug, and I'd heard a whisper that he wasn't going to be available until after the international break. There were some people that were saying he might have been available for tomorrow, but I'd heard a good while ago that was never going to be the case.
Yeah, he won't be
So
available.
that's a bit of a bump in the road. Todibo obviously has taken a bit of time to get up to fitness. Looks like that now, touch wood, that problem's now over the hill and far away. So I accept that there's been things that he's had to cope with, but all managers have that. That can't be something that you keep falling back to. And like you say, with every match that goes past, the reasoning that he's a new manager, he needs to be given time, which I'm on board with to a degree. But with every match that goes past, that becomes less of a reason and becomes more of an excuse.
Yeah.
And I just think that at some point, and I don't know, and it's everybody's different. Some people have already lost patience with him, which I do find quite bizarre. There were people after 5 games were saying get rid, and I'm like, bit soon.
Yeah, it is a bit soon, but worrying signs nonetheless.
Yeah, I would suggest, whereas Brentford was a must not lose game for me, tomorrow is absolutely a must win game. No ifs, buts, or maybes about it.
It is for me too, and I'll tell you why. When I say it's a must win game, I just mean on a personal level for me as a fan. I'm not convinced at all he'd be sacked if he loses it. It's possible, but it's not something where I feel like, if we lose tomorrow, he's definitely going to get the hatchet. I'm not sure that's the case. He may survive a bad result tomorrow, possibly.
When you say a bad result, Tom, what is a bad result? Just a defeat?
Not winning.
Or getting tonked?
Well, there's levels, There's.
If we got done 5-0, I think, the knives are going to be out for him then. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I don't think he could survive that, but that's highly unlikely. I mean, just not winning. I think if we look all over the place again tomorrow, if it's another really poor performance, and we don't win, especially if we lose. But for me, a bad result for him tomorrow is not winning. Like this is not a game where you can say, respect the point, whatsoever. So I think it's must win for him, not necessarily that it will cost him his job if he doesn't, but I think it's must win because I think that even the fans who have been relatively patient, I think at that point would be, okay, if we are now have played whatever it is, 10 competitive games, I think it'll be 10 competitive games, and we're still a shambles, and say Kudus is on the bench because he's alienated him, and we'll get to that in a while, and he's picking the completely wrong tactics, and we can't see what it is we're trying to do, and we just look really poor again. I think that would sway a lot of the rest of the fan base to the point where they would be like, just get him gone, because if we can't win this, what can we win? If we can't beat Ipswich at home, the fixtures literally do not get any better than that.
No,
because I believe Ipswich have started quite brightly. They've drawn 4 games. They haven't won a game yet, and I hate even saying that out loud because I've been a West Ham fan for a long, long time, as you can tell over here. I hate saying they haven't won a game yet, but
up steps West Ham,
because
hold my beer.
You just know Ben Johnson's going to hit one from 25 yards and we lose one. But they haven't won a game. They've had 4 draws, and they're playing quite well. But they're still Ipswich Town, and we will have much better players on the pitch. It's as simple as that, and a much more expensively assembled squad. And if we're a shambles in a home game against Ipswich, who I still think will get relegated, by the way, then you who are we going to beat? And like I said, how much time do you need really to get your shit together? How many training sessions do you need really to get drilled into these players how you want them to play and what our style is going to be and formations and what our 11 we're going to be going with everyone available? Because Ipswich's manager's done it with 9 new players. Chelsea's manager's done it. Brighton's manager's done it. And we apparently have the one manager who hasn't been able to do it. Now is the time for me as a fan that this is a must-win game for Lopetegui. If we do the opposite, which is what I really, really hope, it's not like I want the manager sacked. I want him to be successful.
100%.
So if we turn up tomorrow and things look a lot better and we actually put in a really good performance and we beat them comfortably and we're clearly the better team, everyone looks like they know what they're doing. The passing is crisp and neat and it all looks like this is what we've been looking for. Then obviously that changes everything. Yeah, that changes everything, obviously. But it has to happen now. I mean, my patience is over as regards that part of it. I don't know if you still have some left. If you think, maybe we'll give him, 15 games or half a season to see if he can get it together. But I just don't understand why it would possibly take someone that long.
No, I mean, what I want to see and what I need to see more relevantly is, hi, Randy, I've seen your comment there. Yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. What I need to see, and I think most other fans need to see, is West Ham come flying out the traps and going for Ipswich's throat. And I'm not trying to be horrible to Ipswich. They're a good family club, and obviously if you look at the history of West Ham and Ipswich, there are actually a lot of similarities in ways between the two clubs. A lot of John Lyle, for instance, is someone that's connected to both clubs, and there's been a lot of players down the years that have played for both teams.
Yeah,
separated by the A12. And here's something as well. I watched the Villa game last week, and do you know the thing that struck me was how much Portman Road looks like Upton Park before it was knocked down.
Yeah.
I was watching that game and went, Jesus Christ, that is just like looking at the old girl. I'm like, wow. But what I need to see is we come out and we absolutely set about them. Take them to the cleaners, make them look like what they are compared to us. We're the established Premier League team with the big budget in the summer. They had a paltry amount by comparison. They've just come up from the Championship after many years. What was it, 20, 25 years out of the Premier League, something like that?
Yeah.
So, look, it's not an unreasonable thing. I'm not trying to be patronising. We should go out there and we should rip them to shreds.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't, that's quite concerning, I think, to put it mildly. I would be sitting there going, well, what is this? What are we watching? I mean, and the thing then that would start to concern me is this a little bit of history repeating itself? Because the last manager we got in that had a connection to Real Madrid, it didn't go too well for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing for me. It's the performance and result. I'd like to build. I mean, if we come out and we're shit, and it's the same kind of crap, like he's making change of formation at halftime, whipping 3 players off, bringing 3 on, trying to kind of change it up a bit, and we shithouse a 1-0. That won't be enough for me, to be honest. I mean, okay, the points will be useful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Much better than drawing or losing. So I'll be pleased with the points. But we need to start seeing more than that now. We can't just shithouse, a win the way we shithouse the draw at Fulham, at Craven Cottage. We've got to start seeing some cohesion in this team and players that actually look like they know what they're doing, because so far they haven't. And I suppose kind of related to that quite directly could be the Mohamed Kudus situation. So reports, of course, for the last, basically since not long after the game, actually, have been that there was a flare-up at half-time in the dressing room at Brentford, and they were quite heated. That I think Loppy was digging out Kudus for maybe not being a team player or whatever, not being greedy, whatever it was, which Kudus took exception to, and apparently they were up in each other's faces, and some people had to step in and get them apart. Now, I don't necessarily mind too much when something like that happens.
Shows a bit of passion.
Yeah, look, it does. It shows a bit of passion.
Yeah,
it can happen, in that kind of environment. Tempers flare a bit, and things are said, and usually it's not a big deal. They both calm down, and then next training session they're having a chat and they clear the air and everything's fine. No hard feelings. And that's what I was thinking kind of all week. I was thinking, okay, I'm sure it probably did happen, and that's very likely why Kudus was benched at halftime, or maybe he flared up partly as well because he was told he was being benched. I'm not sure which way around it happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter, but I didn't think too much of it until Lopetegui's press conference, where he kind of reiterated that people need to be team players. And I thought, oh, well, that's not diffusing anything.
That's carrying over.
That's carrying it over to the next game, which is crazy. I was like, why are you saying that?
It should be.
This is where you
done,
should be.
We move on.
This is where you douse the flame. You douse the flames in water, not fucking petrol.
Yeah.
Where you say, oh, there's no problem. Yeah, we had words in the dressing room at halftime, but that was all cleared up by the first training.
Yeah, it should have been, the dressing room at halftime. We're 1-0 down. It's a London derby. Things haven't gone so well. Things are said in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
We've dealt with it. We've addressed it. We've drawn a line under it, and we've moved on. We're grown men. It's a highly charged atmosphere. These things happen. They happen in dressing rooms all the time, and we're cool. We're fine. We're on the same page. That should be the messaging, right? Even if the truth is actually something slightly different, but that should definitely, to come out and say what he said, like you say, it's like, ooh, yeah, that's carrying over there. He still harbors a little bit of resentment there. How's that going to play out? I think it'd be interesting, because there's a part of me that sort of goes, what if tomorrow, when the teams are announced, Kudus is on the bench?
Yeah, because now it's really going to take off, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh fuck, Kudus is on the bench. Is and look, everyone knows he's one of, if not the best players at the club. And if he's on the bench after what's happened in the dressing room and what Lopetegui said in the press conference, then people are going to put 2 and 2 together, and it's going to look like 4. It's going to be like, oh, there's a problem here.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you remember years ago when Ruud Gullit was manager of Newcastle United and he benched Alan Shearer? It's reminiscent of that. I
mean, I remember that happening, and I remember thinking, oh, you're done at Newcastle, bro.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But that's not the situation,
especially if we lose.
But Shearer was like Mr. Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, it's like, this is not a battle you can win.
No.
You just fired yourself.
Yeah.
You just fired yourself. And it could be the case that if he benches Kudus and we put in a shit performance and draw, or especially lose, I mean, Jesus, talk about tying your own noose.
Yeah. He's just walked up to the gallows himself.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Yeah, and it'll be. I think everyone's going to be more than ever waiting with bated breath tomorrow for that team sheet at 2:00 to see, like, is Kudus starting? And number one, is he starting? And number two, is he on the left? So if they've cleared the air and everything seems okay, and then Kudus isn't on the left and is starting, that would be very hopeful. that would be like, okay, they've had a meeting of the minds. Kudus has convinced him, look, putting me on the left just frustrates me. I can't get going in the way I know I can. It's not my favored position. I'm not as good over there. And if he can get that through to Lopetegui's thick skull, because it shouldn't need saying, to be completely honest. I mean, every West Ham fan knows it. I mean, I don't think there's a West Ham fan that would play Kudus on the left. So it would be much more positive to see something like that, where, Kudus is, even if he's playing up top, if he says, Mo, you played up top at Ajax. How do you feel about, going up top? Because, Antonio hasn't played well when he's started games and he's blown out of his arse after an hour. So, how do you feel about maybe playing as either a 9 or a false 9, just up top, leading the line? Kudus would probably jump at that chance, especially if it gets him up the left wing. And he played the game. It's an option, is all I'm saying. I'm expecting Antonio up top, to be honest. But I think it's a far better option at the moment, especially with Fulkrug injured, than it would be to play him on the left again. So it would be very interesting tomorrow to see what that lineup looks like.
Do you know what worries me most, though, Tom? Is not the confrontation. I'm perfectly comfortable with those two having a bit of a, straightener at half time. And I'm a little bit concerned by the comments in the press conference. But I think that the thing that most concerns me is that this information has got out into the public domain. How?
Yeah.
How did that information get out there? Because the only people that should have known that it even happened are people that are in the camp. So we have a mole, we have a leak. How's this information got out?
It's probably fairly straightforward. There were a lot of people in that dressing room.
Yeah, but it shouldn't get out, Tom.
What happens in the dressing room stays there. In an ideal world, that shouldn't have got out. But there's a lot of players and coaches in that dressing room, and I'm sure most or all of them have got contacts in the media. People they kind of slip some information to every once in a while. Only takes one of them to ring one of their mates in the media and say, "You won't believe what's happened in the dressing room just now." And then it's public. So I think
it's a concern for me because I don't think
it's very difficult to keep. Yeah, it's very difficult to keep stuff that happens in the dressing room out of the news. You remember, even at Man United, and Alex Ferguson kept a very tight ship. When he had that falling out with Beckham, he kicked a boot at him. That was almost immediately out in the public domain, because there's a lot of people in that dressing room. You can't keep that quiet.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, I actually made that point. I said that Shearer was Mr. Newcastle, and that was the end of it for. But I meant just at Newcastle. Obviously, Kudus is not Mr. West Ham, so the repercussions would not be as dire.
No, but I think that it would be more the fans that would be like, "Ooh."
But I still think it would be damaging.
Yeah, 100%.
It's still not good. And Mohamed Kudus, by the way, I think upstairs at boardroom level, they understand that we're probably going to lose him next summer, and we want to get as much money as we can for him.
Yeah.
So if he's disgruntled and being sat on the bench or being played out of position where he's not performing, his value just keeps going down, and he gets to a point where he's trying to force a move. If it gets bad enough, Kudus could demand a transfer in January and make life extremely difficult. And you know what happens with players who are like demanding transfers from a club and are kicking off within the club? It's very hard to get their value.
Yeah,
it's very hard.
And it's also destabilizing for the dressing room. And let's be honest, we're not exactly in great shape as far as our form is concerned. So the last thing we need is this situation bubbling away in the background. Not helpful at all.
No, it's really not. And like I said, I was actually shocked at Lopetegui in the press conference, actually pouring more fuel on the fire. I just don't understand what the point of that is. I can only imagine he's doing the kind of I'm in charge, end of story, kind of like he appears to be the kind of character who's like, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, what I say goes, end of story, that he doesn't entertain any fucking about. And that can be good in some ways, but bad in other ways. You have to be very careful with that stuff if
I
you're
mean,
going to
there's
do that.
comment about you need to be a team player. I'm on board with that, but you also need to have room for the maverick, the sort of like the player with the little bit of X factor. Do you know what I mean? The player
Yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
little bit of a
DiCanio was,
difference.
yeah, I think, like Harry Redknapp understood with DiCanio, you
Yeah,
just put him out there and just let him do his thing.
yeah.
Yeah, he's going to
Ferguson
be,
with Cantona.
yeah, with Cantona. I mean, Ferguson very rarely give players that much leash. But he understood with Cantona, the way Redknapp did with DiCanio. There are certain players you just have to let them go play. Okay, they'll do things sometimes that drive you mad or frustrate you, but to get the best out of them, you almost kind of just have to let them be a kind of a free spirit. And DiCanio, to get the best out of him, Redknapp knew, just let him go do his thing. And Redknapp was actually very good at that, at recognizing those players. I remember, and it wasn't just at West Ham, I remember seeing an interview with Rafael van der Vaart, who was an excellent midfielder, very skillful attacking midfielder who was at Tottenham. And he was already at the club when Redknapp took over at Tottenham. And things hadn't gone well for him at Tottenham. I can't remember who the manager was right before Redknapp, but things,
Wasn't it that Juan de Ramos?
it might have been Ramos, yeah. But things were not going well. Van der Vaart wasn't playing very well. Tottenham weren't doing very well. And Van der Vaart said, when Harry Redknapp came in, he literally said to me, just do what you do. Like, you don't actually have any instructions. Just get on the ball as often as you can and go wherever you have to go to get on the ball and just do your thing. He said he gave him a free roll, complete freedom to do what he wanted. And that season, Rafael van der Vaart was sensational for Tottenham. He was amazing. So some players, you just have to give them that license because they're that good. So I think if Lopetegui, for example, was to move him into the centre and put him, say, in the number 10 role and just say, okay, Mohamed, you've got a free role. You just go, get on the ball, do your thing. Because I think Mohamed Kudus is at his best when he has that freedom to just express himself. I think the tighter reins you keep on him, the less you get out of him. And I just think that Mohamed Kudus, who's happy that he's able to have this free role, that he's able to just go and express himself and play his game on the ball in the middle of the park, running at a defensive line, to me, is terrifying. I think he would terrorize defenses if he's just allowed to do it. So the worry for me is that the way Lopetegui is going about this with Kudus is going to have the completely opposite effect and is going to absolutely ruin him. It's going to ruin him at the club. And not only that, but so far this season, if you think about who you would consider maybe are probably among the most talented players that we have, just, with the ball at their feet, the best footballers. You think about Emerson in the back line, very good with the ball at his feet, excellent going forward. Whatever you think, of course, we all know he has defensive frailties. Not terrible, but, he's not an amazing defender.
No,
but going
forwards.
He's so good. And you think of Kudus, you think of Paqueta, you think of Jared Bowen. Like, none of them are playing well under Lopetegui.
No.
They've all been poor from the start of the season.
Were you surprised that Bowen didn't make the England squad? Because I'll be perfectly honest with you, I was not surprised in the slightest.
No, I thought that was entirely possible. I wasn't certain he'd be dropped because you never know with managers. Sometimes, once you've got your foot in the door in the squad, you tend to have a bit of latitude when it comes to your immediate club form. But I guess, Carsley's only in the door and he hasn't really built up that level of trust Bowen, with the new manager.
Yes.
And I think he's one of those players that's kind of easier to drop, to plug in or out of the team. There's probably like a lot of players that are easy to kind of plug in or out of any given squad. And other players that, even if they are actually not on great form, you just know they're getting picked anyway.
Yeah.
Because
you
of
know
their,
that Harry Kane would get
yeah,
picked playing the way that Bowen has done, but Bowen's not Harry Kane. He hasn't got that reputation, all the rest of it. Yeah, and whatever the reason is, I mean, you mentioned all those attacking players. As I say, I do look and go, I don't think it's a coincidence that all of them, Paquetá. Okay, Paquetá, there's probably reasons off the pitch as to why he's not playing the way that we believe he can. So put him to one side, but Kudus and Bowen, as I say, all three of them are playing really poorly, and compared to what their potential is. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I really don't.
No, it seems unlikely that they would all just. I could probably make an excuse possibly for Paqueta. With the news that came out recently, the updated news about the charges against him and the payments from his uncle to the other Brazilian striker, the 5,000 quid. I don't know if it was euros or pounds or whatever they were talking about.
Crazy though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I just think with Paqueta, it could be that his head's not really in it. He's just, he's probably up at night, because that doesn't look good. And he may only have, what are we in now, October? He might have 3 months left of his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And we've just lost out on what, an 80 to 100 million pound asset in terms of transfer value. That's just literally becomes, if it goes the way that you've just sort of presented, it goes to zero, just like that.
Yeah, we just lose him for nothing.
With a stroke of a pen, guilty. All right, well, that's him now, worth fuck all.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if let's say the hearing happens in January, let's say somehow he gets cleared, and it's all over. I would imagine the very next game, you would see Lucas Paqueta at his very best, because I mean he'd be absolutely buzzing. All right, that's behind me. I've won it. I'm back on track now. That's all done and dusted. Now I can just go play football. And I think he'd probably start playing like the.
Would you drop him at the minute? Would you drop him right now?
I'll tell you what. We got 20 odd minutes left. I think that's a good a time. Let's do it by giving our teams that we would play tomorrow. Backline. I was going to say back four, but maybe you don't have a back four. I don't know. But keeper and defenders, Gatesy.
He's probably going to match what you're going to say. Areola between the sticks, left to right, Emerson, Kilman, Todibo, and Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've seen some people say because of Emerson's form, that he should be dropped, and obviously there is absolutely a case for that. And that Wan-Bissaka should play on the left, and you could play either Sofal or even Mavropanos on the right because he did well second half against Brentford. I wouldn't. I think we need our best players on the pitch in their best positions. It's Lopetegui's job to fucking get these players playing. It's as simple as that. So that's who I would play. That back forward. It's Todibo's time now. There's only one way to get him. Like, he's had enough training now. He's got to be fucking fit. So the only way you get him fully match fit and fully integrated into the team, used to the Premier League, used to his teammates and all the rest of it, is to have him on the pitch. So, and this is as good a game as any to do it, because not many better games you're going to have to actually give him he's 90 minutes, like with another 90 minutes with the team playing, then at home to Ipswich. So yeah, that would be my back four as well.
I did sort of wonder about though the back line that played the second half at Brentford. I did sort of contemplate it, I'll be honest. And I think on balance, I would give Emerson this game. But he's another player that hasn't looked the player that he did last season or the season before. And I think for me, this becomes a pivotal game for him. I think personally, if he doesn't,
Sorry, Will Doyle why would you drop Wan-Bissaka?
Yeah, that I can't get on board with that, Will.
No, absolutely.
He's been our best player, arguably, this season for me.
Yeah, he's been brilliant.
Listen, it's an opinion, so whatever.
Oh yeah, he's entitled to his opinion, but
but I just can't see the.
I don't imagine why you would think Mavropanos is a better right back than Wan-Bissaka.
No, I would, as I say, I would probably say to Emerson, you've got the game against Ipswich, mate, but I need to see something close to your best here. Otherwise, when we come round to the Tottenham game, your place is up for grabs.
Yeah. But again, I think we know it's not because Emerson is shit.
I wonder if it's because of the Paqueta stuff. Because they're close mates, so that it may well be affecting him as well.
Yeah, I think that's less likely because it's not his career on the line. But
no, but if they're they're close pals, you know what I mean. They go back quite a way, and it's probably having an impact on him to a degree. I'm not necessarily saying that's the entire reason. There might be other factors at play. I don't know whether he might be carrying an injury, for example. But these things possibly all coming together, maybe sort of like having a detrimental effect on him.
Yeah, it's hard to know, of course, but but this would be my team. You know what I mean? My 11. Lopetegui might do something different, but Emerson's not a bad player. I don't. I suspect there's training ground issues there that the players. I'm not convinced that the players think much of Lopetegui as a head coach. If I'm honest, I think there's a possibility the players think he doesn't know what he's doing, and that would be a massive, massive worry, because if that's the case, it may be impossible for him to turn this thing around. Because if you can't get the players on board with what you're trying to do, how are you ever going to get performances out of them? So that's a worry for me. But nonetheless, now Ralph, actually, Ralph, thanks for the Renly's does have Wan-Bissaka at left back and Mavropanos at right back, and I suspect he's not alone in that. So we've convinced him. We've convinced Will.
Well done, Will.
It could have been just one of sometimes when you have a brain fart and you're like, oh God,
I forgot about him. It's like I've done it on the West Ham Massive where I've ran through the team that I would play, and I did it about a month or two back, and I ran through the team, and then I quickly realised I'd selected 12 players.
Yeah,
tactical wanker.
Yeah.
It's a new tactical master stroke, a new formation, 4-4-3. Brilliant.
Yeah, that'll definitely catch him off guard.
We'd still lose.
Can you imagine if you actually did it and got away with it for a while? Like the ref didn't realise, or the opposition manager didn't realise that you got 12 players.
It must have happened at some point. I remember when England won the World Cup in 2003, and we're talking rugby union now, that they actually played a game where at one point they actually did have 16 players on the pitch. I think it was one of the 16th player was down getting treatment, but even so, they actually had 16 players on the pitch.
It's actually not unheard of.
Yeah,
it does happen where players. It happened here in Ireland as well in a game. I'm trying to think of the circuit. I think it was a hurling game. It was on TV and everything, and it was a big game. I think it may have been a club game rather than an inter-county game, but one of the teams did actually have an extra player on the pitch for a certain amount of time. I think because they were making multiple substitutions. and one of the players who was supposed to come off didn't come off. He didn't realize he was being hooked, and nobody quite realized it took a few minutes for someone to realize, hang on, he's still on the pitch. He's not supposed to be on there. And
Get off.
yeah, it does happen, particularly with his multiple substitutions. So it's probably going to happen to us. 30 substitutions. Lopetegui's made so far. More than any other team in the Premier League.
More than Moyes made all of last season.
Yeah. We went from a manager who didn't like making substitutions and made as few as possible to one who can't make enough of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 substitutions.
Yeah.
In our Premier League
I do
games.
wonder if some of them he just made because he could, not because there was actually a sort of like an objective behind it. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, is that right? Do you remember that Redknapp story about an extra player? I don't recall it. Now he's told a lot of stories, Harry Redknapp.
I was going to say he's got more stories than bloody Jackanory, so it's very possible.
Yeah,
I know there was the one about the player when we played the friendly at Oxford.
Yeah,
Oxford
he
City.
put a fan on. Yeah,
That's
I think the fan was slagging off Lee Chapman, wasn't he? Saying
That's
he
it.
couldn't hit a barn door, and he's behind, where the dugout is, and Harry Redknapp gets sick of listening to him bitching about Lee and Lee Chapman, and he says, "You reckon you can do better?" He's "Yeah, I could." And he said, "Come on then." And he's actually given him they've got a pair of boots off one of the players that fit him, and the kit and stuff, and they've put him on, and he's only gone and fucking scored, hasn't he?
I think that was a bit of an urban legend. I don't know if he actually did score. I've heard conflicting.
Harry Redknapp was told the story that he scored.
Yeah, but he's got lots of things wrong himself over the years where people have gone, no, Harry got that wrong. Somebody turned around and said that I've heard versions saying that the player scored. I've heard a version saying that he scored, but it was chalked off for an infringement, offside or whatever. And I've had another version that says that he didn't score, but he set one up. Now, I don't know because I wasn't there, and probably there's not loads of West Ham fans that were there on the day that can actually sort of verify it. But yeah,
who knows? But anyway, he definitely subbed him on.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, actually, what formation have you got? Like, would you choose?
Okay. I know where
we're going with like midfield and.
If I tell you the formation, you'll probably work out who the player is in front. I'd go 4-1-4-1.
Exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So my one would be Edson Alvarez.
Yeah. So we're in lockstep so far, and I assume the same reason as me is we're at home to Ipswich, and we surely don't need two fucking players sitting deep.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. If we play two defensive mids tomorrow, I'm going to ask myself the question, why?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, if you've got two players sitting, whether it's Alvarez and Rodriguez or Alvarez and Souček, I'd be like, we're at home to Ipswich. Surely we don't need two players, two deep-lying midfielders.
No, I think the messaging there would be quite poor.
Yeah, and just to answer your question, Randy, what would I do if I was own the club and we lose to Ipswich? I would sack him. Frankly,
I'd like to think I'm quite a patient and understanding guy, but I think for me, I think I'd be thinking long and hard about it if we got beat. As to whether
and I'll tell you why. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's not easy to pull the trigger that early in the season. I get it, but I think everything added up for me that we already discussed. That there seems to be no rhyme or reason to what we're doing. He's swapping formations halfway through matches, subbing players in and out all over the place, trying to fix his mistakes. And also, by the way, the players reportedly are extremely frustrated with him changing the team and tactics right before a game, which he did before the Chelsea game, which is why we were such a shambles. So with everything combined, the results, if we lose at home to Ipswich, the Kudus situation, I would just feel like I've just got to put a stop to this while we can still salvage our season and while we have an international break. And there are actually some decent managers that are not in work right now that you could look at. So not Southgate, by the way. So, Graham Potter still
I was
not
just
a job.
about to say, Potter.
Thomas Tuchel,
Yeah.
not working. Xavi, who left Barcelona, if you wanted to go a different direction, if you thought, well, let's try someone who's going to actually really get these guys playing some football.
David Moyes.
About that. Not going back to that. And I'm probably missing a couple that are out of work as well that I haven't thought of. But
Well, Sean Dyche might be out of work soon, so
oh Christ, it would just be our timing, wouldn't it? That Everton will
Sam
sack him at the
Allardyce.
exact same time. We'll go get him. But yeah, just to answer the question again, yeah, I would. If we're all over the place tomorrow and lose that game, I would sack him. But anyway, we are agreed on the team so far, up as far as DM. You're 4 in midfield.
Left, Somerville.
Ding,
Right, Bowen.
ding.
Central, and this could be the
This is where we
controversial
get
bit.
to the question you asked me. Yeah.
This could be controversial.
Mm-hmm.
It's Thomas Souček
Ooh.
and Carlos Soler.
Oh, that is interesting. I didn't expect that.
Mm.
I didn't. I thought you might go Kudus and Soler. I had a feeling you were going to drop Paqueta. Interesting.
Mm.
So that means presumably you're playing Kudus up top.
I am.
Yeah, and we spoke about that earlier about maybe is it a solution. So I'll give you mine. Obviously, look, I agree. Somerville left, Bowen right. I thought long and hard about dropping Paqueta. But I wasn't quite ready. I think we're at home to Ipswich with an international break coming. I thought if you can't perform at home to Ipswich, then that for me would be kind of the thing. Okay, now I've got to drop him. But because I am a bit biased, I love Paqueta. And the reason I'm not quite ready to bench him is because he can do things on the pitch that no other player that we have can do. I understand how frustrating he can be. I understand his form isn't great. But because of the things I've seen him do, even in games previously, like last season or season before, he'll do that. Where he kind of drifts out of a game. He's not really in it. He's not really doing a whole lot. And then the ball comes to him and he does something brilliant. He's the only player that can do certain things. We don't have any other player who can do it. So for this game, I would leave him in. But this would be like, okay, Lucas, you've got to perform today. End of story. You have to perform today at home to Ipswich. So I would give him this game alongside Soler. And the reason I'm going with Soler instead of Souček is because if Paqueta does not perform this week, it is Soler who will replace him for the Tottenham game, which means I need to get Soler on the pitch, get him that 90 minutes, give him that extra time playing. So, he'd be more prepared for the Tottenham game. And then I would play Kudus up top. Plays there for Ghana. He's played there for Ajax. He knows the position. Now, he's not really going to be exactly an orthodox 9. I don't expect him to be in the penalty area all the time and just stay there. There will be some interplay. He can, and we've done it before. You remember when under Moyes, where Bowen might be up top to start with Kudus on the right. But then the next thing you know, Kudus has popped up central in the 9 position and Bowen's popped up out on the right-hand side. I would start doing that again because I thought that was really effective, actually. because opponents didn't really quite know what was happening because they were kind of interchanging. I would actually go back to the little bit of interchanging between Bowen and Kudus. So one can drift in and the other can drift out to the wing to get on the ball.
Total football.
Yeah. Actually, I thought it worked really well when Moyes did it, and I was surprised when he moved off it. But so I would go back to doing that because I remember it working quite well. Where they're not in a Bowen and Kudus positions aren't rigid. It's like, Jared, if you want to pop in, and then Mo can pop out to the wing, and then he can pick up a ball on the right, and you're playing the centre forward role, and you can swap out again after later on. Just swap in and out. It's very hard for them to be like, oh, where the fuck is that one now? Is it
I think we should do that with wingers, to be honest, Tom. I think we should every sort of like in match just swap wings, because then you're changing the problems that the fullback has to face. If you've got orthodox wingers where they're going on the outside and you switch them, now they're going to cut inside, and you're just mixing things up a little bit and keeping the opposition on their toes.
Yeah, I think that would work better with your team because Souček is in it. So when you switch the wingers back, Bowen goes left and Somerville comes across to the right, you can say to them, when you switch over, just whip a cross in, and Big Tommy will be like attacking in the box, and trying to get on the end of some things in the box. It would work less well with my 11, I think, but it would definitely work well in yours, I think, or at least have a chance of working really well in yours. But without Souček on the pitch, I think it would have to be crosses from Bowen on the left and Somerville on the right. Really, there's no point in them. No, they can still attack inside and lay a ball off. Obviously, they don't have to cross every time. They can attack the byline, cut a ball back, whatever. It can still work-ish in my system. But I think with your system, they can do either or, and it could be effective. But yeah, so very similar teams. But that's why I would play Kudus and Soler together. Because if it worked, for example, let's say they actually really work well together as a duo in there. They're both really good passers of a ball, both really skillful. So if they could start working off each other, we might have something,
Yeah. One other thing you could do with that 11 that I've selected is, saying about players that can switch and interchange. Two other players that can interchange would be Kudus and Souček, because I've often wondered about, could you play Souček as the number 9? Because he's say what you want about his technical abilities in terms of playing defense, splitting passes. I mean, he couldn't sort of, with his passing, he couldn't split a wet paper bag, to be quite honest about it. But in terms of him being around the sort of like the 18-yard box, getting into positions to sort of create chances, score goals, we haven't got many players like that.
Yeah,
he's been very effective over the years. Say what you want about his technical deficiencies, and I would be the first to point them out, but he knows how to put a ball in the back of the net.
He certainly does. And I'd be surprised if it hadn't crossed Lopetegui's mind during the week. Antonio hasn't been performing. Antonio really, for me now, is a super sub. The reason being, I think he struggles now against fresh defenders from the start of games, and he tires before they do. So he becomes easier and easier, I think, to deal with as the game goes on.
Yeah.
Whereas if he comes on, 70 minutes in, and the defenders now are already like tiring, they've been out there 70 minutes playing, and then a fresh Antonio comes in, that's when he can really kind of do some damage for me.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's why we always do see the best version of Antonio when he comes off the bench. Because now he has that kind of advantage over the defenders that he never really has from the start of a game. They're fresh, he's fresh, so they can deal with him a bit better when they're fresh. And like I said, he tires way faster than they do, so he just becomes easier and easier to deal with and less of a problem. So
Basically, opposition defenders know pretty much that if they can keep him at arm's length for the first half, he's done. I know
Yeah.
we say about 60 minutes, but to be honest with you, I think sort of probably that's being generous. I think if he doesn't do something in the first half, forget it.
Yeah, that's it. It's all over. What's your feeling for tomorrow? Confident, hopeful, pessimistic?
Yeah, I am, because I think that I think it would be unreasonable for me to not be confident, and I'm saying that despite evidence to the contrary. I understand that there is evidence to the contrary. There's
Yeah.
obviously all of the sort of like the previous 6 games in the Premier League, and the fallout from the Kudus Lopetegui confrontation, and various other factors coming out of the club, this, that, and the other. But if we cannot turn up to a home game against a team that's just been promoted for the top division for the first time in 20 odd years, we're an established Premier League team. We've gone out and we've spent so much money and brought in all these players, and we've got a superstar coach. If we can't reasonably puff our chest out and say we should be going out there to win, something's desperately wrong. And I think so whether this is hyperbole on my part, I don't know, but I'm going to say 3-0 West Ham. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not implausible on paper, right? When you look at the teams,
Yeah.
if we turn up and perform,
100%.
we should swap Ipswich aside.
Yes.
They should not be able to handle our talent.
But
yeah, I understand where you're coming from. You look at the players, you think we've lost our first 3 home games. Surely we can win this one. There's a part of my head telling me the same thing, that surely, we don't fail to win again at home against Ipswich. Surely we get the result we need there, even if it's not pretty. But I worry that we won't. I really do, and I have to believe my own eyes. We have been a shambles for almost the entire time this season, possibly with the exception of the second half against City, which I thought was the turning point when it happened. I thought, oh yeah, okay, I can get on board with that. This is decent. This is really decent. We on another day we could have scored twice against City. We really could have in that second half and made a much closer game of that. But then it just completely disappeared again, and it was like, and that's the one time we've kind of seen it. I understand we were a bit better against Liverpool in the cup in the second half. Played some decent stuff in that. So, but other than that, I haven't seen it, and it's just hard for me to trust in it and to trust in Lopetegui and what he's doing. We have kind of failed the eye test so far. I really hope you're correct. I really hope that tomorrow is a turning point where we actually play really well. Not for 20 minutes, not for one half, where we actually dominate a game and control it and win comfortably.
Yeah.
Which we're capable of doing at home against Ipswich with the players. With the players that we've got. I just don't trust Lopetegui, and until he gives me something to trust in, I'm not hopeful for tomorrow. I've seen Ipswich this season. Kieran McKenna, from what I can see, is a better manager than Lopetegui. He's got those players playing so well. The game against Villa, they were really good, and Villa are a seriously good side, as we found out as Bayern Munich found out as well, by the way, the other day. And they were well worth their point in that game. They didn't rob Villa of a point.
Yeah.
They're very well organised, and they all know exactly what they're doing. They're all rowing in the same direction. They're very well coached, and they've got some. To be fair, they've got some really nice players. They really do have some really nice players, who are maybe playing a bit above themselves. They're probably still a bit giddy. That they're playing in the Premier League, and they're buzzing. From that still. Things may change when they kind of settle down and get used to the fact they're playing the Premier League, and results may turn the wrong way for them. But at the moment, they're doing very well. I've got some really nice players and a very, very good young manager, and I think they'll be ready for us tomorrow. I really do, and I think they'll cause us some problems. I don't think we'll be beaten. I don't think we'll be beaten, because I think we have probably enough individual talent that somebody will dig us out again if we need it. Souček, dug us out last week, and we've seen other players come back quite a long way where we're not playing really well, and then even in the Conference League final, if you think about it, we weren't playing very well at all.
Nope.
Bowen did well, won that pen, but there's always a bit of luck involved, with the defender sticking his arm on the ball or his hand. But then there was just that one moment of quality from two really top-class players. Paqueta with a just unbelievably weighted through ball, and Bowen with a brilliantly bent run to break the offside trap.
Yeah.
It's that high line that Fiorentina were playing. And when you have players like that, sometimes they will dig you out just with a moment of brilliance. So we might get that tomorrow. And I really, really hope that we don't have to rely on something like that to get a draw or a win tomorrow. I don't want to see that. So we could win the game and not play well. We could draw and not play well. I'm going with not playing particularly well again and drawing the game, because it's hard. I just can't have confidence in it tomorrow, despite the fact we're at home and despite the fact it's Ipswich. If Ipswich are really well drilled, they really are. I just do not expect them to be a walkover. They've been defending actually very well. They're not conceding lots of goals, and we're just struggling at both ends of the pitch. We concede a lot of goals and we're struggling to score them. And Ipswich are is a very bad combination, and I would not be surprised if Ipswich either hold us scoreless or only keep it to one goal tomorrow. And if they do, then obviously we're in a spot of bother, because
the knives will be out.
Yeah, the knives will be out. So I'm going to go 1-1. In the hope that I'm completely wrong and tomorrow is the day where we finally turn that corner and play really, really well and look really good and just blow these guys away. Nothing would make me happier. I'll be like, okay, off to the races. Hopefully it's all uphill from here, but we shall see. What did we say last week? Do you remember we gave our predictions last week?
I think if I remember correctly, I think I actually said that I thought Brentford would beat us 2-1.
Yeah, I think I don't want to big up myself. I have it in my head. Did I say 1-1?
I think you might have done.
I think I don't know if I said 1-1 or 2-2 or so. I think
I've got a funny feeling you did say a draw. That does ring a bell.
Yeah, I'm sure I said a draw. I think it was 1-1. I said, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of going the same again tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, but look,
will be revealed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Do you think if the worst case, do you think what do you think it would take for him to be sacked after tomorrow? Obviously, if we win, he won't. But
crap performance and any defeat greater than a 2-goal margin, and I think he struggles to survive to the Tottenham game.
yeah, you think he'd survive a 2-0?
I think he possibly could. A 3-0, I don't see it.
Even though Sullivan will be there and the crowd are going to be like very, very hostile.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he's going to hear them.
I think three goals would just be like, fucking hell, wow. Two goals, he might survive.
I don't know. I think I agree with. I think I maybe agree with Jake. I think any loss tomorrow, it's going to be hard for him to keep his job. Because I think the crowd are going to go absolutely.
Yeah, but they've had it formed for giving managers arguably more time than they deserved in the past. I mean, I remember Pellegrini was getting pelters for a good while before they actually finally did pull the trigger. Moyes got part of that would have been because of the Conference League, but sort of like even the season that we won the Conference League in the Premier League, the form was shit.
But I think Lopetegui's got nothing in the bank.
No, he's not got that credit in the bank. But Avram Grant, that was under Sullivan. Avram Grant everybody could see he was taking us down the gurgler. He kept faith with him. There's been Slaven in his last season before he got the trigger pulled on him. I think everybody could see quite clearly that, look, he needs to go. He, with the best will in the world, we love him, but he's got to go for the benefit of the club. He's got to go, and he probably stayed 3 or 4 games longer than most other Premier League chairmen would have given him.
But
that's the thing that makes me wonder.
Slaven had. That's what I'm saying. Slaven had the 15-16 season, which was
he had that, but then the season
he still didn't last that long in the next season. So and he did have some credit in the bank.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be. Hopefully, we won't need to find out.
Exactly. Hopefully, we're sitting here sort of like talking about something that doesn't even come to pass. Hopefully, my prediction is correct. 3-0, job done.
Yeah, I hope so too. Listen, really appreciate you joining me, mate, as always.
Anytime.
Love getting your opinions. And just for anyone who's maybe new watching this, we just remind them where they can find you, mate.
Thank you very much, Tom. Well, you can find me on my channel, which is the West Ham Massive. So if you haven't subscribed, please do jump across and give us a subscribe. We've actually got our match preview for the Ipswich game at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So if any of you are at a bit of a loose end, pop across. It'd be lovely to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely recommend you going over there to the channel. Some great content on there. And Gatesy really knows his stuff when it comes to West Ham. So go check that out, everyone. As always, to everyone in the live chat, really appreciate you being here. Depending on what's going on at West Ham, I might do a lone broadcast next Friday night and just bring in the live chat and interact for the whole show with the live chat. You guys definitely deserve it. You deserve some love. There's a lot of people I've seen here that are regulars and very good supporters of the show. And also to any of you that maybe are not able to watch it live but like to watch it back, really appreciate you watching it. And anyone who can take a second to hit the like button and even subscribe to the channel. There's loads of great content here on West Ham Network. So if you can hit the like and or subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me if you could take a couple of seconds to do that. But as always, Gatey, until next week, come on, you Irons.